Chelsea went to Brighton and with their manager, Roberto De Zerbi, who had not had a win since he became manager for Brighton. However, Brighton maintained their style of play, trying to play out from the back, pretty much almost tiki-taka. But I don't know how many people actually thought Chelsea were going to lose or be trashed the way they were. I'll start with you, Mr. Hinder. Potter, do you think he has actually found his first team?
Potter out. Hashtag Potter out. Hashtag too deep. No, I think he's got a sick new haircut. He's acting the part, and now he's realised that I'm just carrying on the same thing with the Chelsea. And to be fair, maybe he felt Brighton won, gave him 3 points, scored a couple of oggies, which was, do you know what? I bet that was the worst place he could have ever imagined himself being in the whole wide world at that point in life. And I bet he just wanted the whole ground just to swallow him up and disappear.
Maybe he still thinks as Brighton manager, he trained the Chelsea team to lose. You never know. These things affect managers.
I don't think that he's changed enough as of yet. And I think he's maybe going in slowly. I know we've said that he's changed the keeper before, and he's still playing a very random formation. He hasn't decided to go with anything that's a little bit different. He's still playing 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1.
Can I just ask on the keeper? Was the keeper change in that match, was that enforced or was it performance based when he subbed off Kepa at half time?
It's a very tricky one because I don't think it was performance based. Because Kepa was actually having a decent game, but I don't know. There was nothing has been said in terms of injury, at least not that I know of.
I think he was replaced at half time because there was a couple of goals that going in. It wasn't to do with anything performance, but evidently he was slightly injured. That the official term is he was injured. I'm not sure he was technically at fault for the goals, but he was injured.
No, he wasn't. I mean, there were two of the goals were own goals. So
yeah, he shouldn't let in goals in. It doesn't matter who scores them.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's how it works.
Yeah, he was injured, and so they took him off as a precaution, I believe. I think they were already way down, weren't they, at that particular point? And the sun was shining down on Brighton to romp home. But I don't think he's put the stamp on that team. I think that's going to take him a while. I think that he's definitely working with players, I don't want to say of a better caliber, probably bigger egos than he was working with before at Brighton. They were his players. He'd been there long enough in order to get his own men in.
Are you implying that he's already losing the dressing room, Mr. Hinder?
No, I'm implying that he hasn't put his stamp on the dressing room, and quite rightly so. When you go to a new club, the worst thing you can do is go, right, we're going to play this formation, and they've got no idea what they're doing, and they've changed everything. They're a quarter of the way through the season. He's taken over. There's no preseason. There's no sudden training that he's going to be able to do that's going to give them all the information that he wants to. So he's got to take his time. However, the formation that they were playing wasn't really working before. And they're continuing to do that kind of 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1, 3-4 is narrow at the top as you can possibly have.
3-4-2-1 it was officially. So
I don't understand. Well, he's whatever he's trying to get them to play. Maybe it's one of them things that with time it will work. Do you think
he's got Havertz up front? He obviously doesn't have a clue. Havertz has scored less goals than I've got fingers on my hands since he's been there.
You're definitely right, Dunk. This Sheffield Wednesday thing is is attack everybody left, right, and center. Dunk, do you think that whatever I don't know what word to use. Let me use toxic. Do you think the way Tuchel left Chelsea is still affecting some of these players and affecting the Chelsea team that is so difficult for Potter? I know Potter just lost one in 8 matches. However, do you think it's a situation that getting the players to dwell on a better mentality and system might be a bit more difficult?
I'm not sure if it's a hangover from Tuchel, but if you look at his lineups, he's clearly made decisions already based on whatever he's seen in training. So the first one we said is Kepa over Mendy. So there was that decision. And again, if you just look at their subs lineup, he's not keen on using Jorginho. I'm not sure how many games he's featured in the last few games. He doesn't seem to
he played against Man United and he scored the penalty. So
yeah, so he was out the team today. Like most of the games I've seen, we've talked about here, he hasn't been in the starting lineup. He went with Loftus-Cheek and Kovacic, I think, today. then you look at with the system, like Neil said, it's 3-4-2-1. He's playing Sterling and Pulisic as they're technically going to be wing backs. They're expected to contribute to the defense. So, I mean, if you ask anyone about Sterling and Pulisic, they're wide attacking players. Like they're not defensive players. So I'm not sure where he's coming from on that angle where he keeps trying to play that formation, because he does change it in game, but he keeps trying to play that formation and he keeps playing very attacking players out wide. Like particularly with Sterling, he's got Cucurella and Chilwell. Like they're both great, like wing backs, left wing backs. So I don't know if he's just trying to get Sterling into the team to keep him happy. He's another person that's not getting very praised for his performances leading up to the World Cup. Aubameyang didn't start today. I don't know. You wouldn't think he'd be resting him because they've already qualified in Europe.
It's resting him for next week against his old boys.
Oh, against his old boys. And then you got Broja, who we're all fans of. He's not really using him much. He's just coming on as a bit part sub. So in response to like your initial question, no, I don't think he's found his preferred starting lineup yet. But he does seem to be persisting, like trying to make it work. And like you said, he's won most of his games, so maybe the criticism's a bit harsh, but it clearly didn't work against Brighton this weekend. Like we said about the Leeds game, football's a funny game. Like if you just look at that, you know what's coming. Like Chelsea unbeaten, Brighton haven't won one. He's playing his old club. It was inevitable.
Do you think? I think we're in agreement though that he doesn't know his main 11, which is not necessarily a bad thing. He might say I've got a main 20. That's up to him to decide on what he wants to play. But you mentioned on a couple of points that I'd like to touch on, Dunk. Sterling not playing well. Let's be honest, Sterling's going to struggle to play at that position well. And I want to say later on in his life, but way later on in his football career, to suddenly go, any chance you can play wing back when you've been playing left or right side forward for the last 6 years, right?
And that's fair enough, because we were all joking about Saka playing left wing back for England, like when Southgate did it. So
I think that's a bit hard. He's also got Thiago Silva, who is without a doubt
Look at Mr. Hinder supporting Sterling and not playing well because he's playing out of formation. But when Saka was playing, he's playing out of formation.
Saka used to play wing back. So
there you go.
Saka did, but no one's ever said Sterling can play wing back. I think Steve said it, and initially that. Would Sterling be the pivotal striker at Chelsea? Is that why he's gone there? And we were like, well, I don't think so. Potentially play out wide. But now he's playing wide, but deeper wide, which is probably about his comfort zone of where he would say. You've got Thiago Silva, who's an aging centre-back. And don't get me wrong, he's been an absolute quality stalwart to the game.
Again.
No, an aging centre-back, I said. He's still younger than me, right?
I don't think Brazil's in Asia.
But then he's got Cucurella and Chalobah next to him. Now, if you're playing three at the back and you've got a 37-year-old at the back, and don't get me wrong, they've got legs on the other two, but I'm expecting them to know how to play centre-back at the top of their game in order for that. And I don't think that either of those two are top quality centre backs. I'm surprised that Azpilicueta isn't playing centre back with him, whether there's an injury or not, because he's also got a little bit older, but got a new contract, and he would be perfect to be teaming up at the back. So I would be expecting those to play. If I was the Chelsea manager, I'd have them as my two centre backs. I'd then be looking to have either Chilwell playing as an actual fullback and Cucurella as another fullback. Maybe they bomb up and down, but not quite Trent Alexander bombing up and firming up that back four that needs to be firmed up. Havertz did score, but he's never set the world on fire. Broja, I'm a massive fan on. Aubameyang, I don't know if he's match fit or not. He does come on yet again, but he's brought Ziyech on, who's never done anything. I'm assuming he plays Gallagher because he likes him and Mount, but I don't ever remember a team in the Premier League doing well with two cams in the team consistently without a real... basically, it looks like you've got three cams at the top rather than any form of strikers hold up to. If you're going to play with two cams, then Lukaku would be perfect to hold the ball up for them and then to get them to maybe play as a false nine or something. I don't think
they can afford him, Neil.
But it's just a bit of a random one. So January will be interesting for him. He's done well since he's been there. They've lost 2 games, right? Or 1 game, isn't it? I think he's lost 1.
I think it's his first loss as in the Premier League.
Yeah.
The thing though with
Yes,
Potter and Chelsea is now at the point that he took over, the season hadn't gone in. You know, it was pretty much very early stages. So does he? Do you think he still has the luxury of let's give him one full season? Because technically, I mean, he took over when it was like what, game 4 or game 5. So he doesn't have that excuse in terms of it's not his team. He doesn't know what to do. And as you've mentioned,
no, I still
in
think it's not his
January,
team.
sorry.
He doesn't have the transfer window. He started 4 games in. There's no preseason. There's no transfer window. So he's not got any players that he wants. He's inherited a team of whatever they've been training for 6 weeks before, and now he's gone, right, this is what we're going to do.
Could somebody argue that the quality of the players that Chelsea do have, though, he doesn't need a preseason?
I don't think he does need a preseason, but they've trained at a certain formation to play, and they've been training at that for that time. To go in and say, can you go and do this? I think he's playing safe, whether that's right or wrong, but I think he's playing safe and going, you know what? I'm going to see how it's going. Let's do it your way. Let's carry on as we are. And now we'll start making changes. Because there was a massive improvement when Tuchel left, right? I don't think Potter's not been complaining or moaning about what's happened or what's gone on. He's had a little bit of rub of the green. And then they've lost against Brighton. They got really, really spanked, right? But I think he's got to get enough time. I think it'll be silly to get him in where he was at and then expect him to win the league, if that makes sense, because he's never been up there in the upper echelons or at a club like Chelsea. And that's no disrespect to Brighton, but there's a lot more egos at Chelsea than there will be at Brighton.
More things